Good evening, Old Gun Guy here. Welcome to my part 2 of my ode to the 3030 Winchester cartridge and rifles that fire it, or the 30 Winchester centerfire, actually, is originally called. The other companies, the competition of Winchester, didn't want to call it 30 WCF, so it became 3030. I went over that in the first video. Brief recap on the cartridge. It is a moderately powered rifle cartridge, modest recoil, modest accuracy. It's designed for short range, short to moderate range hunting, say ranges of max maybe 250 yards. Deer sized game, that's its sweet spot. It fires 308 caliber bullets, 308 thousandths of an inch, 30 caliber. It's a rimmed cartridge. Centerfire, large rifle primer. The case is just about 2 inches long. Modest pressure, max pressure is about 42,000 psi. Some of your Magnum handgun rounds operate in that range, the very newest ones. It's the first cartridge, commercial cartridge, to be loaded with smokeless powder. 1895, that's when it came out. It's still in existence almost 130 years. It'll be 130 years next year. 129 years old, the cartridge. It's killed more game than probably any other rifle cartridge in existence, of all different sizes. Like I said, it's optimized for deer-sized game. It has killed everything up to including Alaskan brown bears. I guess that's what whoever encountered the bears had it in their possession. Is it optimal for that? Absolutely not. But like I said, proper shot placement, proper bullet, you can get the job done. I would rate the maximum effective range of this cartridge at about 300 yards, especially with the newer FTX Hornady spire point projectiles that are safe to fire in a tubular magazine. The cartridge and the rifles that have been made in millions by many manufacturers. This particular Marlin here was Winchester's main competition for the lever gun market in the 20th century, most of the 20th century. Well, from the end of the 19th century all the way through the 20th century until both firms basically went out of business. They were bought up by other entities and in Marlin's case, destroyed by the hedge fund people that bought Remington. Remington bought Marlin, and it went away. If you don't hand load and you're gonna go in a store, you're gonna find basically 3 bullet weights: 150 and 170, the most prevalent. That's 80% of the ammunition loaded. Round nose or flat point bullets by Remington, Federal, Winchester. The Hornady FTX, a newer offering with the spire point projectiles, 160 grains. And they do sell the components, and obviously I hand load, so I've loaded what basically you can buy in the store is the Hornady Liver Revolution ammo. And these pointed projectiles and the powder combination they use, it basically an extra 50 to 75 yards of useful range to the 30-30. Ballistically, I went into the ballistics in the first video, so I'm not gonna make this one too long. The maximum range of this cartridge is a little over 2 miles if you fire at about 35 degrees off the horizon. So it's lethal in its entire flight, but its effective range, its accurate range, you figure a max of 300 yards. Yes, if you had all your holdovers and a laser rangefinder and a nice windless day, you could probably plink plates at 1,000 yards with it if you knew the drop. But that's not what it's designed for. It's these rifles are, Americans got a love affair with the lever gun. Dates back to the Old West, and that's what made these guns so popular. And over the rifle, Like I said, this is a Marlin 336. This was made in 1977. 20-inch barrel, as is most of the 336s. Tubular magazine. I'll go over the features. But a little history on Marlin. Founded in 1872 by John Marlin, JM. And been making firearms since that time until 2007 when they were bought up by the hedge fund people. So that's a long run. Made a lot of fine firearms, and one of their finest is their lever gun. It originally started out as the 1893 Marlin. You could say the grandfather of this. Little changes were made along the way to get to this rifle, but basically 1893 to today, this is the same rifle. The great advantage of the Marlin, the 1893, is a solid top receiver, and hence the ability to mount a telescopic sight to it. It ejects out the right side, so that's with the Winchester very difficult. The 1894 or the Model 94 very hard to mount the scope to it, but the Marlin hands down wins in that category. With a few minor. Alright, I'm back. Had to silence the grandfather clock. With a few minor patent changes. The rifle was actually designed by one of Marlin's engineers, Lou Hepburn, I believe. In the 30s, they made a few changes to the stock, the forestock, and a couple minor internal changes to some of the parts. Became the Model 36, and then a few more changes in 1948. It became this rifle, the Model 336. In all, Marlin has made about 3.5 million of these rifles in its run. That's an astounding amount of rifles. Winchester to date has made about 8 million. So between these two companies alone, you got 11.5 million rifles, and the majority of them made in 30-30. Although Marlin, his other favorite caliber in this gun is the 35 Remington, and very fine caliber, but a great. I don't know what the percentage is. Maybe it's 65% 30-30s and 2/3 30-30 and 1/3 35 Remington. These also made other calibers, 44 Magnum, and it's a whole list of them, but we're discussing the 30-30 here. All the components in this rifle are forgings, steel forgings, very well built guns. Forged receiver, forged bolt. I believe the lever handle is forged. 6-shot tubular magazine on the forestock. This particular rifle, as equipped with the scope and a sling, weighs about 8 3/4 pounds. So it's heftier than the Model 94. And you can feel it. It feels a little bit beefier. 20-inch barrel, most of them. We'll start in the front here. That's a muzzle. The front sight is hooded, has a hood over it. The rear sight is a buckhorn with an elevation ramp under the scope here. Front barrel bands get the swivel for the sling attached. Another sling swivel in the stock. All your rifle should have a sling, or a carry strap, if you will. It's like a holster for your handgun, but it's a holster for your rifle, if you will. Marlin had cut rifling until 1956. Then they came out with something called micro groove. More lands and grooves, much shallower, said to form a better gas seal with a jacketed bullet, but also saved them tooling cost, as it didn't wear out the cutters for the when they're cutting the rifling in the barrels. The tooling lasted longer with the micro groove. The only downside with the micro groove since '56 is if you like to hand load lead bullets, you know, at real low velocities, 1,000, 1,200 feet a second for plinking, the micro groove doesn't really grab the bullets correctly and spin them, so it's not really that accurate. It's more optimized for jacketed bullets, and the overwhelming amount of people who are going to use this firearm are going to go hunting with it. They're going to use jacketed bullets, so the micro groove, you know, works plenty fine for that. The receiver's forged. The earlier models had no safety through the receiver. Later models had a push crossbolt safety to block the hammer, all right? All of them have like a quarter cock notch, and that's really your safety if you're walking around with this in the woods with a live round in it, hopefully in your hands, not hanging off the sling or leaning against a tree. But lever guns are not tack drivers. They're 2 to 3 MOA guns for a number of reasons. You have a magazine tube attached to the barrel, and it alters barrel harmonics. When you fire the gun, rifle barrel is like a tuning fork. As long as the vibration is consistent, the accuracy will be consistent. But what happens when you have cartridges in a magazine tube attached to the barrel and you load the magazine tube, the cartridges have mass, and it alters the tuning fork or the vibration. And each shot, you're getting lighter and lighter. So each shot, you're altering the harmonics of the barrel. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, lever guns are 2 to 3 MOA guns, which is plenty fine for, you know, the 2 to 250 yard hunting you're gonna do with this firearm. Kingsgate, you know, the loading port here on the side. It's got a round steel cylindrical forged bolt, nice little gold trigger here. The Marlin logo on the buttstock, you know, hard plastic buttstock, little white spacer there. Most of the Marlin 336 have pistol grip stocks. Some were made with straight grip stocks, like the 94 had in the prior video. That's a straight grip stock. It's comfortable to carry and shoot, and it is heftier with the construction of the rifle. A little bit heavier steel, solid top receiver. I think in the original design, the solid top receiver, their biggest concern was if a cartridge ruptured, it would protect the shooter, as it would be blowing right in their face. I mean, that's a kind of a rare occurrence, but if it should happen. But it's a very strong gun, very strong rifle. I had this gun probably 35 years. I killed a couple of deer with it, but I went to bolt guns as my main hunt rifle. When the gun's locked up in the bottom of the receiver, this little tab will protrude. When the bolt's closed, when it's open, obviously it retracts. It's another little feature there. Gun comes apart extremely simple for maintenance. Basically, you got to remove this screw in the lever and wiggle the lever out and wiggle the bolt out the back. You have to push the hammer down because it you know, rubs on the bottom side of the bolt. It makes the bolt kind of hard coming out. The ejector is inside the receiver, and the extractor is on the right side of the bolt. I'm going to pull it apart, but what's a very good thing with this rifle is you can clean it from the breech end, which you should clean all firearms on the breech end. For the muzzle, you have to be careful if you do damage to it. But you need just a gunsmith screwdriver. I'll do this real quick. I may have to take my glasses off because the close-up stuff I see fine without my glasses, but take that screw out of the lever. Here's the lever. You wiggle the lever out and you push the hammer down to get the bolt all the way out, and that's it. That's how fast she comes apart. Firing pin, extractor. This is a slot for the ejector, and put the case in there. See how it fits in relation to the bolt. The lever, you know, cams into the bolt underneath. So Putting it back's a little more challenging. I shouldn't say challenging, but you gotta wiggle it just right to get the lever back in the slot. You slide the bolt in, get it lined up with the ejector. And you gotta get the bolt about there. And then the underside, there's a slot. You see this is offset. There you go. You get it in the bolt, put your screw back in. You tighten the screw up. You don't want to use a regular screwdriver, you want a hollow ground gunsmith screwdriver. There you go. That's all it is to maintain this rifle. Extremely simple. Beefier than the 1894. The Marlin guns, the original Marlin company, are all going to be what's called, is that a JM stamped gun? You know, John Marlin. They will stamp it on the left upper part of the barrel. I don't know if they show up on the camera. That's JM. And by the serial number, this is made in '77. It has no crossbolt safety. Some people freak out. I had, I'm trying to think. I think my 35 Remington has a crossbolt safety. It doesn't bother me, but some people it offends. The safety is between your ears with all firearms. So that's number one. These are just mechanical contrivances. The okay. 2007, this got bought out. 2010, they shut down production in Connecticut. I think they were in North Haven, Marlin. They moved the factory, and then Remington went belly up because of the hedge fund people who ran Remington into the ground. They ran Marlin into the ground. Fortunately, Ruger, which is a good firearm company, bought Marlin. They transferred all their machinery, got it all set up and tweaked, because some of the machines are 100 years old, making these rifles, and they took their time, and they were releasing one model at a time. And the one I saw, the Ruger made one, was, very well made. This is pretty plain gun. It's got no checkering on the wood, just plain 4-stock, buttstock, nice pistol grip. The bluing is nice in this gun. This scope here is a fixed 4-power. It's a Tasco. That's a inexpensive scope from many decades ago. I think the company's out of business, or they were bought out by multiple other companies. The name might still be around, but the original Tasco's gone. They were serviceable. The optics you can get today for the money you can get today is light years ahead of a lot of this stuff. This is a simple crosshair with a dot, fixed 4-power, plenty adequate to shooting out to 300 yards. At anything. In the first video I talked about, using this thing at defense against bad guys at distance, and you do your part, 300 yards. The bad guy human you could engage if you had to, if the scenario justified it. The Tasco scope, here's the markings on it, but just basic hunting setup, nothing fancy, nothing expensive. And I got this gun used many years ago, and it came with the scope, and to this day, gun shoots real well with it. Gonna do this shooting test with this, but they're abbreviated from the normal batch. Not gonna do the chronograph because I'm using all the same ammunition. 150, 160 grain hand loads with the FTX, and 170 grain round nose, Federal Remington. I also have some Winchester here, PowerPoint. I'm gonna do a thermal effects test in this for this video too, but I'm gonna use the 160 grain FTX projectile. I used the 150 grain I had on hand for the Winchester, and I'll use a 170 when I do the part 3 of this, which will be the Savage 1899. If you should acquire one of these, inherit one of these, Uncle Charlie passes on and gives you his rifle. Very fine rifle. You take care of it, you keep it cleaned and oiled, it'll outlast your grandkids. They're really well made. And they command the premium now, I guess. For a while, everything went crazy with the prices, the guns, but you know, people in the know try and get a JM stamped Marlin. I have a few, and they're fine guns. I'm going to do some long range shooting with it, the 220-yard plates off the bench. I have a camera that can zoom in on the plates, so you can see that this is fully capable of hitting stuff at, you know, I can't go beyond 220 yards, but you could hit no problem out to 300 yards, as long as you know your holes. And the FTXs fly pretty flat. You know, obviously you're shooting a modern Spitzer bullet versus a round nose piece of lead. I'll shoot plates offhand, do the thermal effects test, do the long range shooting off the bench. I'll do the accuracy target like I did with the aperture sighted Winchester in the prior video. I'm going to use the same target. I'm going to shoot, there's a bullseye in the middle. I shot the top of the bullseye with the Winchester. I'm going to aim for the bottom of the black bullseye with the Marlin and see how the shots group at 100 yards. You know, but typically can be expected from one of these rifles. They're not sniper rifles, but they weren't intended to be. They're very handy. Probably east of the Mississippi River, extremely popular hunting rifle. Feral pigs, deer, black bear. So that's that with the Marlin. And then do the shooting, I'll come back for the summary. So let me pause this. Okay, I'm back at the bench here. I'm going to try, I think I'll try 4 of the Hornady FTX projectiles. I got one camera on a target down there, and this is the good camera on me. These were chronographed in the first video, 2,300 feet a second. Put my ears on. Loads just like the Winchester. King's Gate on the side. 1. 2. 3. 4. There we go. Put it on half cock. The bad part about my range in the afternoon, it faces to the west, so the sun's in your eyes. That's 4. I'm gonna pause the camera and run down and see how we did. Okay, part 2 here, the 336 Marlin in 30-30. I'm going to shoot the same target I shot yesterday with the 94 Winchester. The shots have been marked at the top of the target. I'm going to aim the lower part of this bullseye, and obviously the Marlin has a 4-power scope. So it should be a little easier to shoot a little bit more precise. I'm going to zoom the camera in on the target and then go back to the bench and fire 3, maybe 4 shots with the 160 Hornady FTX. Okay, a little over 2 MOA, 3 or about an inch, and there's 1 flyer with the 4 shots, and it's holding right there, so it's dead on. I have to speak loud. This is my second camera. Very acceptable group. I'll pull it out, and the old Marlin with the 4-power task bow does the trick. Yeah, 3 shots in about an inch and 1 flyer, typical for a lever gun. We're going to go on to the next demonstration. So I'll pause this. Okay, I'm going to try engaging the long distance plates. I got 220 yards, 145 yards, 100 yards. I got this camera ready to go. Hopefully capture the hits at distance because it has a telephoto lens. Alright, I started it. I put my ears on and see what we can do. I've already loaded the gun with 5 shots of the Hornady FTX. Yep, 220. I'm going to do it again. It's dead on at 100. It was dead center, but the low part of that plate. 220. See if I can hit the 145. It's a smaller plate in the middle. On the money. I think I'll do the 100-yard plate, which is closest to the ground. Yeah. All that smoke is a rock dust below it. And the final one, the 220 again. Yep. On the money. Modest range, modest accuracy. Shut that off. The old Marlin 336 gets the job done with this ancient 4-power Tasco scope. Okay, on to the next shooting demonstration. I'm going to do offhand at the steel plates with 2 cameras. I use some of this 150 grain stuff I got laying around. I get rid of some of that. 5 or 6 shots at the plates. Then I'll do the terminal effects test with the 160 grain Hornady FTX. So that's what's up next. Yep, 220. I'm going to do it again. It's dead on at 100. It was dead center, but the low part of that plate. 220. See if I can hit the 145. It's a smaller plate in the middle. Yeah. money. I think I'll do the 100-yard plate, which is closest to the ground. Yep. All that smoke is the rock dust below it. And the final one, the 220 again. Yep. On the money. The sun's kind of brutal this time of day. I got this camera, the good one, on the overall scene. I have the secondary camera as the close-up. Just going to fire 6 shots that are in the gun, just to show it's cycling and engaging, targets, whatever I decide to pop down there, and get to it. Well, there's no escaping the sun. Do a little pepper popper plates here. Now one more. Let's see. Offhand. Try for the 200. It's about 200 yards from here. Shot over the top. I hope they captured the utility handle carbine. I missed a 200-yard shot. I shot over the top. As soon as the shot broke, I knew I was high. Let me pick up the brass, and then we're going to go into our terminal effects test. 160 grain Hornady FTX. One shot, and see if we can capture a projectile. Let me set this up. Oh, there's no escaping the sun. Do a little pepper popper plates here. One more. Let's see. Offhand. Try for the 200. It's about 200 yards from here. Shot over the top. Okay, I got this camera way back because I got dosed yesterday a little bit. One shot, terminal effect target. 6-inch jug of water, 3/4 inch piece of plywood, simulating a heavy bone. 2 more jugs of water, another 12 inches of water. Sandwiched between those is a little witness board, another piece of plywood, 3/4 inch, another water jug behind it, just some plywood to hold the whole thing up. I got both cameras running. That one's the secondary one with the bad sound is zeroed in on the water. We'll see if we can capture the projectile. Well, gotta clean that mess up. This camera got really dosed. Let me shut it off. Okay, I'm back. Gotta clean that mess up there. I had water all over both of the cameras. Even this one, it was set way back. A good result. They captured the projectile. But I'll give you the autopsy. We went in there and just vaporized the jug. There's just little pieces all over the woods here. That's the first jug. this plywood was shot before. This is the new hole. You see the projectile expanding. Blew a big hole through the plywood. Good result, heavy bone. Second water jug. Split it pretty good. And blew this hole putting through the witness board. Third jug, which is 18 inches of water, entered. Put a little dent on the other side. Projectile was in this jug. Did the same thing as the 150 did yesterday. Put a divot in the plywood that it was resting against. There's a couple of bullet fragments, and the actual jacket separated from the core. I don't know how good it shows up. That's the jacket. That's the core. It shed its jacket inside the third water jug. I get the fragments, but that'll be it for the shooting. We're going to go inside for the explanation, summary on our Marlin 336 lever action and our ode to the 3030 cartridge. Okay, back for the summary. What can be said about our Marlin 336 rifle here? Very fine firearm. There was 3.5 million made. Between the Winchester having 8 million made, 3.5 million of these. There are other companies making clones of either the Winchester or the Marlin, you know. And as they say, imitations is Cicerone's form of flattery, and both these rifles deserve to be imitated. I think Mossberg's making a clone of this. I think Smith & Wesson just started making lever guns. There's a myriad of companies. Henry makes their own lever guns, you know, a little different than these, but in 30-30. And Henry's a very fine rifle, very fine company. They make very fine products. The Italians make clones. I think they're made in South America. Obviously Japan, Miraku is making them for FN under the Winchester name. So there's probably 14 million 30-30 rifles in the United States. Extremely popular. You're going to find ammunition for it anywhere in the country. You go into a little mom and pop store, they get 22 long rifle, the next cartridge they probably got sitting on the shelf there is 30-30 Winchester. So for that reason alone, you should, you know, if you're going to buy a few firearms, have one that fires this cartridge. And you can't get hurt with a Marlin, you know. And I do like the Marlin because you can mount the scope. And in the accuracy video, it makes it easier identifying the target and actually drilling the target. So we did a 100-yard shooting, and this is the 4 shots from the Marlin. This was the Winchester. I did 3. Same ammunition, 160 grain FTX, doing about 2,300 and change. 3 shots are maybe a tiny bit over an inch and 1 flyer. Perfectly adequate for any engagement of a deer, you know, or any type of game animal. Plenty accurate. Any type of hunting application. Shot the steel plates. I shot the rifle at my little 8-inch plate at 145 yards. I got another one at 220 yards. Shoot the plate all day with it if you want. I put the gun through his paces, shooting offhand, show the gun cycling, me blasting, you know, the steel plates. In the afternoon, the sun's in my face because that's the way the range faces towards the west. But you know, some days you get a little cloud, it's good, but it was really sunny today. Thermal effects test. First jug vaporizer, chunks of jug all over the place. Dosed my secondary camera. Dosed this one a little bit, got a little bit on. I had to get a roll of paper towels and clean everything off quick. Started expanding, punched a nice hole through the first sheet of 3/4 inch ply that simulates a heavy bone. It's an analog for that. Went through another 12 inches of water. The second water, would be the third water jug, was leaning against the 3/4 inch piece of ply, put a divot in the ply, and was in the third water jug. there was basically two big fragments. If they show them, there's the core and the jacket. They separated, and there was a little fragment in the bottom of the jug. And the second jug had a bunch of plywood blown into it too, as you would expect. I weighed that, it was 93 grains. And I think that translates to, I wrote it down someplace. I think it's 58% retained weight. The 150 grain hunting shack yesterday retained 93% of its weight. This is 59. I rounded up to 59. I rounded the one up yesterday to 93. It was like 92 and change and 58 and change. So the 150 was no slouch. That mushroomed nicely. And I did have it laying around here. Oh, I did. It's on a case from yesterday. You know, it stayed intact though. It didn't blow up. But the violent expansion of the FTX on the first water jug just blew it up like a grenade. There was little chunks of plastic literally all over the woods. So good result. It would do the job. What else can we say with the Marlin? Like I said, it's probably the most popular hunting rifle and cartridge combination in existence after all these years. There's many fine cartridges, rifle cartridges, high performance rifle cartridges, on and on and on. But there's something about a lever gun that makes shooters smile, and it's quite handy. A good friend of mine hunts with a lever gun, but that's a Browning BLR, the lever action, and it's a fine lever gun too. And he's got it in an oddball caliber, 358 Winchester. But it's going off into the weeds. But they're very good guns, fast shooting, quick pointing, and just kind of cool and iconic. So for part two, that was part two of my ode to the 30 Winchester centerfire, aka 3030, and this will be the second rifle that fired that. The third one coming up will be the Savage 1899 I have. It was made in 1914. It belonged to my father, so it retains its original condition there. I haven't touched it or altered it, and I haven't shot it in quite a while, so be interested to shoot that, pull it apart and clean it. I'll show how it comes apart for maintenance. You don't have to rip the whole gun down, but it's very interesting design, very innovative, way ahead of its time. Another gun made at the very end of the 19th century. So with that, like, comment. If you comment, I'll try and get back to you. Subscribe, and I'll keep making these videos when I get a chance. It's like a little side hobby for me, and share my knowledge to younger people. So with that, old gun guy, you have a good night.